This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Shalom Aleichem. This is our last year before the Yom Tov of Shavuos, Kabbalas HaTorah. If anybody would like to be mishtatef before Yom Tov in any of the upcoming Sfarim, please let us know. We have a few on the queue. We're working on Rabbi Meir Elakadam Aneni in English for Art Scroll for Chanukah. We're working on Lag BaOmer in English. Also a sefer on Chinuch Habanim. If anybody wants to participate in publication, please let us know. It will be a great suchos. We have fantastic information today. Really an amazing subject. This is brand new material. I want to draw your attention to the comments of the tour. So you're going to be the first to hear this topic. And I would like to speak about it over Shavuos. And Ulacha Mishpat HaBachayra. You get to hear this information first. And if you like it, then maybe we'll share it over the Yom Tov of Shavuos. There is an amazing teaching of the Torah, a well-known teaching of the Torah, in Ar Chaim Siman Taf Yud Zayin. He brings in the name of his brother, Rav Yehuda. Why is it that the Mo'adim are enacted keneged the Avos? He explains how each one of the Yomim Tovim are keneged one of the Avos. Pesach is keneged Avraham Avinu. Because on Pesach, Avraham said to the Malachim, Lu Shiva Asi Ugais. And it was Pesach. Shavuos is keneged Yitzchak, because the shofar of Matan Torah was from the shofar of the Isle of Yitzchak. And Sukkos is keneged Yaakov, like it says, Ula Meknehu Asa Sukkos. And there's a question over here, and it's a very troubling question. If the Tur would have brought from his brother that Shavuos is keneged Yaakov Avinu, I would have understood that. Yaakov Avinu is the Av that reflects and represents Torah. He's the Ish Tam Yoshev Oyhalem. Yaakov Avinu was Meshamesh in the Beis Medrash of Shem Ve'ever V'loi Shachav B'layla. If the Torah would have said that Shavuos is keneged Yaakov Avinu, I would have understood that. If he would have said that it's keneged Avraham Avinu, the Gemara tells us in Avodah Zarah that from the time of Avraham Avinu, he ushered in 2,000 years of Torah. Avraham Avinu was Zaken V'Yoshe B'Yeshiva. But that Shavuos should be keneged Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu represents Avodah. Avodah? What's that got to do with Shavuos? Rabbi Glatstein, are we missing something? Why would the Torah say that the Yom Tov of Shavuos is keneged Yitzchak Avinu? The Gemara in Shabbos says on Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, Amar Rava, B'shah shemachnisin Adam ledin. After 120, they bring a person into judgment. Oimrim lai, they say to him, Nasasa v'nasata v'amuna. Did you deal in business honestly? Kavat itim la Torah. Did you establish times to learn Torah? This expression, kavata itim la Torah. What do you mean kavata itim la Torah? To set times to learn Torah. We know v'higisa b'yom v'layla. One is supposed to learn day and night, which means whenever they can. If you have a few minutes before mincha, don't sit in the shul twiddling your thumbs, waiting for the davening to start. Open up a sefer. Learn a few lines of Gemara. Learn a Mishnah. Learn a Pasuk. Learn a Rashi. Say a chapter of Tehillim. But you have to learn whenever you have the availability. You're walking down the street. Don't let your mind wander. You have a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. V'higisa b'yom v'layla. Obviously, there are things a person has to do in life. A person has to daven. A person has to eat. A person has to go to work. A person has to take care of their family. We understand. But whenever you're not, then there's no mitzvah to read every single Jewish magazine. It doesn't say in the Torah that before Shabbos and Yom Tov you have to make a pile of different Jewish periodicals and read all of them. But it does say that in all your spare time you should learn Torah. So what's this idea, kavata itim la Torah, to establish times What do you mean established times? When I have time to learn, I'm going to learn. When I don't have time, I won't learn. What does this mean, established time? That means even when I'm very busy, I have to make a set time that come what may, I have to stop doing whatever I'm doing and learn. Where does this come from? Where does it say in the Torah that I have to be koivea itim la Torah? What's the source of such a din? The Shulchan Aruch even codifies in Siman Kuf Nun Hey, it comes from the Torah, that after you daven, you should go to the Beis Medrash. V'yikba es lilmaid. You have to set time to learn. V'tzarach sha'oisayes ya'kavua. That time needs to be established. Shelo ya'avireno. You should not give it up. Afim hu savar laharviach harbe. Even if you think you're going to make a lot of money. And the Mishnah Berurah explains, trying to make it a little bit bigger, the Mishnah Berurah explains, the Iker Mitzvah of Talmud Torah has no shiur. You have to learn the whole day whenever you have time, like it says, La yamosh sefer HaTorah zemipicha v'gisa b'yom v'layla. And when a person has time and he's mavatel, it's a severe indictment against the person. And Chazal even say that if you make your times itim, meaning let's say a person says, well, I learned my daf yomi already. I already did the daf. Today's daf happens to be the last amud of the Masechta, and it happens to be only 2 lines. So Baruch Hashem, I only have to learn for 30 seconds today, but now I'm done. Chazal say someone who makes his learning itim, even though he has more time, he is mefer bris, he's like annulling the covenant with God, and he's breaking the Torah. So what does it mean to be koivea itim? Koivea itim is a person has to establish set time every day that he will not give up that time no matter what. And if for whatever reason oinus happens and he couldn't fulfill his learning, he should make it up like it's a debt, and not like a regular debt that you have 30 days to pay. You have to pay it up that night. Like Rav Acha Bar Yaakov borrowed in the day and he paid back at night. And the Achronim write that before you leave shul in the morning, even if let's say a person's very busy and he won't be able to learn for a significant amount of time, at least to learn one pasuk or one halacha before he leaves. Koiveya itim la Torah. So aside from the idea that one is supposed to learn in all of one's free time, that's not enough to learn when you can. It's not enough to learn when you can. You have to have a set time every day, come what may. The mayor of the city could be knocking on my door. The president of the United States needs my advice how to stop the thousands of Mexicans that are pouring in the southern border, and they're inviting the Taliban with them. It doesn't matter who needs your help. There has to be a set time every day that you learn something. In fact, the Kaf HaChaim writes that this set time, it shouldn't be on Sunday, it should be the same time every day. Don't make it Monday at 10 a.m. To Tuesdays I have dentist, I have to go. So Tuesday it's going to be 12:30, and Wednesday it's going to be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It should be like clockwork. The Kaf HaChaim brings down from the Rama Mipano, Sheyikva es kavua v'layachloif hayoim b'sha'achas u'l'machar b'sha'acheres. But after you do that, then of course, whatever free time you have, you should. What the Kaf HaChaim is adding from the Rama Mipano is that should be a set time every day. By the way, the Chida brings down on Dvash Lafif, the same Rama Mipano, that should be the set time every day. The very interesting halacha regarding being kaivei itim la Torah, that a dayan, the Berkei Yosef brings that someone who is appointed to dan, to adjudicate, he's allowed to preside over a court case at the time that he's kavua lilmoid, and accounts for learning, because din is Torah. But says the Berkei Yosef, that's only if you don't get paid for it. But if you get paid to adjudicate, it doesn't count for Kviyas Itim LaTorah. If you're a Malamed Tinoikos, if you're a Rebbe for a teacher, and you get paid, you don't that doesn't count for Kfiyas Itim LaTorah. This is what his Zayda Rabbi Ramazulai brings down. And according to this, if someone's learning in the Kollel and he gets a stipend, as little as it was, when I was learning in Kollel, I'm not going to give away too many details, but they gave us a whopping $80 a week. You know, that's enough money today to buy gas to get you to the Kollel, right? But if you get paid, it doesn't count as Kviyas Itim LaTorah. You get a mitzvah, you get reward, you're a tzaddik, but you are not Koiveya Itim LaTorah. So what exactly is this concept of being Koiveya Itim LaTorah? Where does it come from? Where is it sourced? Hashem says in the Torah many times you need to learn. But what is this idea of establishing set times, fixed times? And why would it be that you shouldn't get paid for it? Let's now discuss the most basic and well-known question regarding Kabbalas HaTorah. In the Masechta Shabbos, the pasuk says, "Vayisyatzvu b'sachtes hahar." They stood at the bottom of the mountain. Amar Rav Avdimi bar Chama bar Chasa. Malamed shakafa HaKadosh Baruch Hu aleim es hahar kegigas. We learned that Hashem suspended the mountain over their head like a barrel. Va'amar lahem, he said to them, Imatem mekablam HaTorah mutav. If you accept the Torah, great. V'yim lav, and if not, sham tehekvu raschem. Here you will be buried. So the Gemara is telling us that the proposal of Kabbalas HaTorah was not Hashem said to the Jewish people, do you want to marry me? No. This was what we call, Hashem took a mountain. He suspended it over our heads. He said, do you want to marry me? And we said, yeah, for sure, of course. Because Hashem said, if you don't accept the Torah, I'm going to kill you. Which is one way to get your Kala to agree to marry you. You know, threats always work, especially if it's a good threat. So Hashem coerced us to accept the Torah. So Tosfos famously asks, what do you mean? They were already makdim nasa l'nishma. They already accepted it willingly. Why did Hashem have to force us? Tosfos gives an astounding answer. Tosfos says, yeah, we accepted it willingly, but Hashem was afraid we might back out. Which, by the way, there is some indication that we tried to back out. If you look in Parshas Vaschanan and Devarim, the pasuk says, Kol asher oimar eleinu v'shamanu v'asinu. First we'll listen and then we'll do. What? But they already said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we'll do and then we'll listen. Yeah, that's what they said in the beginning. But it could be they wanted to back out of it. Tosfos brings that Hashem was afraid that when we see the big fire that caused our soul to depart, maybe we'll renege. V'afal pi shekvar gdimu na'aseh l'nishma, shema yu choizrim k'sheyiru ha'esh ha'gdoila. Maybe we would retract when we see the great fire. Sheyatzasan nishmasan. That their soul would depart. So this is the famous kasha of Tosfos. This is the question in the Medrash Tanchuma, that why did Hashem have to coerce us to accept the Torah, but we already said Na'aseh v'nishma? The answer is, says Tosfos, Hashem was afraid we would renege. But Maharal of Prague, in many, many places, at least 4 places, and my friend Rav Ilan Halberstadt sent me a recording of Hagoin Rav Moshe Shapiro, where he said he's aware of at least 6 places in the Maharal. I only know about 4 of them. And where the Maharal advances the following principle. And the principle goes like this. If something is important, if something is critical, then it cannot be left up to your discretion. Hey, somebody goes to the doctor. The doctor say, hey, do you want to breathe? Yes, I would really like to breathe. Hey pal, we don't care if you want to breathe or not. You have to breathe. So we're not going to ask if you want to, because whether you do or not, you have to breathe. There's certain things that cannot be left up to your discretion. Certain things, whether you want or not, you have to do it. Even if you want to, we don't care that you want to. And if we would leave it up to your discretion, you may come away with the mistaken notion that, I'm doing it because I want to, and if I don't want to, I don't have to. Pal, no! It's not that you're doing it because you want to, and if you don't want to, you don't have to. You have to even if you don't want to. We can't leave this up to discretion even though we know what you're going to choose. Because then you're going to think you're doing it because you want to. We can't allow you to think that you're doing something because you want to do it when something is so important. When something is vital, it has to be. And when something has to be, it endures. Analogous, the Maharal says, to when a man rapes a woman. At that point, the Torah doesn't say, if you want to marry her, you can marry. If you don't want to marry her, you don't have to. No, you have to marry her. You forced her, you're stuck with her. So too Hashem wanted to be stuck with us. So if He would have married us and He would have asked, would you like to marry me? Then if Hashem later on decided He doesn't want to remain married to us, then He wouldn't. But Hashem, so to speak, was ma'anes us. He coerced us. This way, He can never send us away. The Maharal writes in his Hakdama to the Ar Chadash, this is the reason why Hashem was kaf aleim har kegigas, so that we would be coerced. Hashem wanted to be ma'anes us on Kabbalas HaTorah. And if we're coerced, we could apply the pasuk, lo yuchal l'shalcha kol yamav. He can never send us away. And therefore the Jewish people can never depart from God. The Maharal says that there's a medrash, and I'm going to show you something very interesting. We don't have such a medrash. But the Maharal quotes a medrash on the pasuk. If a man rapes a woman, when Hashem came to give the Torah to Klal Yisrael, He suspended the barrel over our head, so that we would be the anusasa shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And by an anusa it says, Lo yuchal l'shalcha kol yamav. Someone who seduces a woman, he could send her away. But if someone coerces her, then he forces her into the attachment, then the attachment is, per force, cannot be removed, because it's a necessary attachment. This is the explanation for Kabbalas HaTorah. Hashem forced us so that we would be coerced. And if we're coerced, then Hashem can't separate from us. To show that the Torah is absolute, it's necessary. Likewise, in Tiferes Yisrael, Maharal says, Hashem forced us to accept the Torah, so Klal Yisrael shouldn't say, I keep the Torah because I want to accept the Torah, because the Torah is warm and fuzzy, and it's, you know what the buzzword is today? If you want to bother giving a shiur or writing something, it has to be inspiring. It has to be inspiring. And even better, if it makes you feel warm. But chas v'shalom, to teach Torah that's not inspiring, or it doesn't make you feel warm, no. We can only do things that the recipient is inspired by. No! That's not Torah! Torah is reality. It has to be. Hashem doesn't want Klal Yisrael to say, we accept the Torah because we want it, it's delicious, it's geschmack. That's not a milah for the Torah. The whole world is dependent on Torah. If we wouldn't accept the Torah, the world would cease to exist. Hashem would have to revert the world back to tohu vavohu. What's Hashem going to do? Would you like to accept the Torah? That's like saying, would you like existence to exist? Or would you like for it to blow up in the next 3 seconds? Would you like there to be a nuclear explosion and the world... Hashem can't leave it up to us. As if, you know why the world exists? Because we want it to. No, pal, you're not that important that the world only exists because you decided it should exist. I'm giving you the Torah. I don't care if you want it or not. That's great that you want it. I'll reward you that you want it. And you get crowns for it. And you'll sing songs about how you want it. But I don't care that you want it, because we can't leave it up to your discretion. Therefore, it's not ro'oi, it's not appropriate that the Torah be left up to the choice of the Jewish people. Hashem had to force us so that the world would not go back to Tohu Vavayu. So if you say, okay, but it was for nothing, because we already said Nasa v'Nishma. Says the Maharal, it's not because Hashem didn't want us to retract. He wasn't afraid we were going to retract. It was inherent. How could the Torah, which allows reality to exist, be subject to someone's discretion? That means the existence of the world is dependent on someone's discretion? So Hashem had to force us to show that the reality of the world is a reality. Furthermore, the Maharal says, Hashem didn't want Klal Yisrael to say that we accepted the Torah based on our discretion, and maybe tomorrow we'll decide that we're not interested anymore. Because after all, you asked us if we want it. Tomorrow we don't want it. Today we want hamburgers. Tomorrow we want milchik. Today we want the Torah. Tomorrow we don't want the Torah. So Hashem forced us, meaning it's yours, whether you like it or not. And anything which is coerced is eternal. And this is muchach in the Medrash. The Medrash says, "V'lo yisiya leisha," when Hashem came on Har Sinai, He forced Klal Yisrael to accept the Torah. So this way Klal Yisrael would be an anusa, and by an anusa it says, "V'lo yisiya leisha." And therefore we're His forever. And the Maharal reiterates this by explaining that in the times of Yechezkel, the Ziknei Yehuda came and they said, could a kohen who buys an eved, could he eat truma? He said, yeah. What if he sells it to Yisrael? So they said, can't eat truma anymore. So they said, well, we left Hashem's Rishus, so now we don't have to keep the Torah. Yechezkel said, nice try. Nice try. You never left God's Rishus. What's the explanation? No, Klal Yisrael wanted to leave God's Rishus. They wanted to call it a day. God said, too bad. I already was ma'anas you. Can't get rid of you anymore. And the Maharal reiterates this in the Gur Aryeh and Parshas Yisrael, that anything which is coerced is eternal. And again, he repeats this in the Netzach Yisrael. By the way, this that the Maharal says that he found a Medrash, that Hashem coerced us to Mekabel the Torah, so He can't send us away. The Yeshev Shmaitza in his Hakdama also quotes a Medrash. However, the Torah Shalema of Rav Menachem Kasher, he brings that he's unaware of where Chazal say this. It's the Mincha Belula, who's the Talmud of the Rashba, also quotes Chazal, but this is a Chazal which is no longer extant. But Neman Aleinu, the Maharal, that there is a statement in the teaching of the sages that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forced us to be Mekabel the Torah in order so that A, He can't send us away, and B, Hashem was conveying that something so vital and important like the Torah cannot be left up to your discretion, as if, oh, that's really nice of you that you want the world to exist. Thank you so much for being Mekabel the Torah. And if you didn't want to be Mekabel the Torah, I would just have to blow the whole thing up. No. We cannot leave this up to you. I'm happy you want it. It's nice you want it. Here's a pat on the back, but I don't care whether you want it or not. The Torah is a reality of existence, and it cannot be left up to your discretion. It's interesting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, the proof that I sent you, Vayomer ki eya imach, v'zel lecha ha'ois ki anochi shalachticha, v'hoitziacha es ha'ami Mitzrayim, ta'avdun es ha'elokim al ha'har hazeh. Serve God on this mountain. serve God? That's what Maimon Har Sinai is? Avoida? Maimon Har Sinai is avoida? It's limud HaTorah. It's Kabbalah HaTorah. It's ta'avdun. It's ta'avdun. What's the ta'avdun? So I heard from Hagoyin Rav Moshe Shapiro, Zechatzak Levracha. I heard the recording myself. The Yom Tov of Shavuos is Yom Tov of Kabbalah HaTorah. What do we have to do exactly? What is our job on the Yom Tov of Shavuos? We have to understand that as much as we emphasize that Torah is enjoyable, and Torah is sweet, and Torah gives us happiness, but fundamentally, Torah is reality of the universe. The world couldn't exist without the Torah. And Torah cannot be left up to our discretion. Oh, today I have nothing to do, so I'm going to learn for 16 hours because I have time. Pal, I don't care if you have time or not. That's very nice that you're learning because you happen to have time. That's not good enough. You can't make Torah about your choice. Torah, you have to subject yourself to the Torah. When you don't have time, you have to learn anyway. You have to be koiveya itim la Torah. Because you have to be true to the way that the Torah was given. The Torah was given in a way that even though you wanted it, it wasn't enough that you wanted it. Hashem was going to force it. The acceptance of Torah, one's relationship to Torah has to be that whether you want to or not, you are meshubad to the Zman. Not that the Zman is meshubad to you. You can have someone who is retired and he has all the time in the world, and he learns 20 hours a day. That ain't good enough. What we need to do is someone who doesn't have time. He literally doesn't even have 10 minutes. He's so busy. But he says, I don't learn because I want to and because I can. I have to. And he carves out an hour to learn. Carving out an hour to learn is more chashuv than learning in 12 hours when you have the time. Because the message is, I'm not learning because I'm choosing to learn. I am meshubed to this man because I am reenacting Maimed Har Sinai. In order to reenact Maimed Har Sinai, it has to be that even though I want to, I have to. This hour, I have to. I know I have a chuppah and a vart and a l'chaim and my third cousin's graduation, and if I don't go to the siddur play and the Chumash play and I don't know what, and I don't drive the carpool, it doesn't matter. This is the Zman that I set aside to learn. I am meshubed to the Zman. Kafa alehem har kegigis. When in our limud HaTorah do we ever reenact and pay homage and remember and commemorate Kafa alehem har kegigis? That's through being koiveya itim la Torah. This is the idea of Rav Moshe Shapiro. The way the Maharal understands Kabbalah HaTorah. The question of Tosfos. If Klal Yisrael said Nasa v'nishma, why did Hashem have to force us? The answer is because He had to show Torah is more vital than something that could be left up to your discretion. This is something the Maharal writes in 6 places at least. And Rav Moshe Shapiro said, so what does Tosfos hold? Why didn't Tosfos knew the Maharal? Tosfos knew any svar the Maharal would come up with. So why is Tosfos asking that Klal Yisrael said Nasa v'nishma? So why did Hashem have to force them? Why didn't Tosfos know that Torah is so important that it could be left up to their discretion? That it cannot be left up to their discretion? Why couldn't Tosfos answer like the Maharal? Why didn't Tosfos like the Maharal's answer? Says Rav Moshe Shapiro, Avada Tosfos knew the Maharal. And Tosfos knew that Torah is so important, it cannot be left up to any individual's personal discretion. But you have to look carefully at the words of Tosfos. Tosfos' kasha is that Klal Yisrael already were mishabed themselves to the Torah. They already made it that it's not up to their discretion. They were makdim nasa v'nishma. They said, God, we don't have to hear what's in the Torah as if the only reason we're accepting the Torah is because it's rational and it's logical and it's something we want. We said we don't even have to hear what it says. We're going to do it. So that means Klal Yisrael already made themselves meshubit to the Torah. So why did Hashem have to force them? They already forced themselves. They already were meshabed themselves. That's Tosfos' kasha. Tosfos knew the Maral. Tosfos knew Torah cannot be left up to someone's discretion. But Tosfos was still asking. Klal Yisrael made it that it's not up to their discretion. They were makdim, nasa v'nishma. To which the Maral says back, yeah, but Klal Yisrael were meshabed themselves to the Torah. Hashem says, I cannot leave the Torah up to your discretion that you chose to subjugate yourself to the Torah. The Torah will subjugate you to it, whether you do it or not. That's still not good enough. The Maral holds. It's still not good enough to say Nasa v'nishma. We can't have it that you're the one who subjugated yourself to the Torah. The Torah subjugates you whether you like it or not. This is the source of being kaveh itim l'Torah. You know, aside from the regular mitzvah of learning, as we mentioned, there's this din of kavata itim l'Torah. To the point where the Gemara in Eruvin says on Samachim and Aleph, Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Yosef Upari. He borrowed and he paid. If he had to change his time, he would borrow and he would pay. The Rambam says every Jew is chayiv in Talmud Torah, poor, wealthy, is chayiv likboya zman. We don't find such a thing by other mitzvahs. So in the Sefer Siach Tzion, he says an idea very similar to what we just said from Rav Moshe Shapiro. And that is, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah has two parts to it. One is the mitzvah of learning, which is a mitzvah like every other mitzvah in the Torah. And another mitzvah is commemorating Maimon Har Sinai. Like the Pasuk says, V'hoidatam levanecha v'levnei vanecha yoim asher amarata lefnei Hashem lekecha b'chayriv. V'hoidatam seemingly is learning Torah. But Chazal say that just like Maimon Har Sinai was be'ema b'yira b'resas v'ziyah, when you learn Torah, it has to be be'ema b'yira b'resas v'ziyah. Well, there are many halachos we learn out that the learning of Torah is supposed to be the way it was given, kinesinasa. We're mechuyev to learn Torah, to commemorate Maimon Har Sinai in the same fashion the Torah was given to us. Or what the Gemara says in Brachas, Ayin Beis Amud Beis, Pasach Rabbi Yehuda b'chvayt HaTorah, Haskes u'Shema Yisrael, Hayoim Hazen Yesa La'am. Was the Torah given to Klal Yisrael on that day? It was the end of the 40 years. But rather, Torah should be beloved to those who learn it, like the day it was given on Har Sinai. That means, aside from the mitzvah of learning, it's supposed to be reenacted as if it was given on that day, with the same awe, reverence, fear, trembling, happiness. This is a chilek of the mitzvah of Torah. As someone who teaches his grandson Torah, it's like they were mekabel on Har Sinai. So you could say that the inyan of Kviyas Yitim LaTorah is in order to fulfill learning Torah the same way it was given on Har Sinai. Namely, the Torah was not given in a way that it was up to our discretion. We were coerced to accept the Torah. Like the Maral says, in order to demonstrate that the Torah is so vital and so important, it cannot be left up to our discretion. And therefore, it's not enough to learn when you're able to learn. It's not enough to learn when you can. After tax season, I'll have more time, I'll learn more. Yeah, you will learn more. But even during tax season, you have to be koiveya, itim, set times, so that it's not you who are deciding when to learn. It's the Torah that's dictating that it is an obligation. And this Sefer has a very interesting idea of the concept of Yisachar Zavulan. Hey, I have a great idea. I'll give you money and you put on 2 pairs of tefillin. Or 1 pair of tefillin. I'm busy. I'll buy a nursing home and I'll give you money. I'll give you money and put on tefillin. Or I'll start a business and you sit in the sukkah for me. Or keep Shabbos. Where do we ever have a thing? I'll make money and you learn and I'll give you money and I'll get schar in your learning. Where does that come from? So the Sefer suggests that, of course, every Jew has to learn. There's no exemption of learning. Even Zavulon, we had in last week's Parsha, we're one of the Shvatim who are Talmidei Chachamim. The inyan of Yisachar Zavulon is this element of Kabbalas HaTorah where I demonstrate that the Torah is not left up to my discretion, but the Torah is what subjugates me. So if I don't have the time, because I'm occupied making a living, so instead of me establishing times, I commit myself financially to support you. So what I'm doing is I'm subjugating my resources to the Torah. That is another way, is another dimension of coercion in the Torah. I am subject to the Torah. I am subjugating my resources, my money to the Torah, and not vice versa. That's the idea, that's the commemoration of Kaf Aleim Har Kegigos in Kabbalas HaTorah. Rav Asher Weiss also says a similar idea, that the Gemara in Avodah Zarah says on Daf Tes that the first 2,000 years of world existence were Yemei Toya Vavoyu, and the second 2,000 years were years of Torah. The Gemara says, when do the years of Torah begin? Not from Kabbalas HaTorah, but from the time of Avram Avinu, V'yas HaNefesh Asher Asu B'charon. Targum Onkelos says, Shabidu Lo'iraisa. Yes, before Avram Avinu, maybe they learned Torah. Noach learned Torah, but Avraham was Meshabed them to the Torah. He was Koiveya them to the Torah. In order to commemorate, this idea is in order to commemorate the fashion and the manner with which the Torah was given. Rav Asher Weiss would say, he would tell his Avreichei Koilel that sometimes an Avreich in the Koilel, and he's busy, he has to take care of things, and he may leave and miss a day or two. But a working person who earns a living from 9 to 5, that gets up early in the morning, and he has a set time to learn, and he learns every morning, every night, sometimes he's on a higher madrega than someone who spends most of the day learning. Because a guy who spends most of the day learning, he learns when he can, when he can't, he doesn't learn. But someone who learns like clockwork, so then in a certain sense he is demonstrating greater connection and greater subjugation to the Torah than someone who just learns when they're able to learn. I saw in the Sefer Chidush Hayomi that he brings, that's why we focus on Zman Matan Torah Seinu, not Kabbalas HaTorah. Because pal, we're very happy you wanted it. We don't care whether you wanted it or not. Whether you want it or not, you're getting it. Because the Torah is that important that we can't leave it up to your discretion. So the emphasis is not on the Kabbalah, it's on the giver. And the giver, we know how he gave it. He was Kaf Aleim Har Kegigas. And he brings an idea, Klal Yisrael were supposed to be in Mitzrayim for 430 years. How do we get out early? So the Rishonim say it was the Koishi Hashibad. It was, we worked every single day. The Shibud. So he brings an idea, if Shibud could accomplish 400 years in 210 years, then it has to work for good as well. So if a person has a set time to learn, and he's mishabed himself to the learning, then his 1 hour that he's mishabed himself to is worth maybe many hours. And he brings that even though, the Sfarim recommend one should learn 8 hours a day, but if you have an hour a day, that come what may, you stick to that hour, that could be reckoned in Shamayim like many hours. Yesh koina olamai b'sha achas. Somebody who has a set hour that they don't give up no matter what, that's very valuable in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that's the only way we could connect to the Torah properly. And even though we live in a generation where we're always focusing how inspiring and enjoyable and sweet the Torah is, and it's all of that, this is not minimizing in any way how enjoyable the Torah is, how much personal satisfaction it gives a person, how it gives a person happiness, gives a person meaning, it gives sweetness, it's inspiring. But fundamentally, it can't be left up to that. Because the Torah is what keeps the world going. It's a Torah's Chayim. If there would be a moment in time that the Torah wasn't learned, the world would cease to exist. So what's Hashem going to say? Would you like the Torah? Oh Hashem, I'll get back to you. Let's just think about it for a few days. Whether we want the world to exist or we want you to blow it up into smithereens. We'll let you know. No. This cannot be left up to your discretion. This is happening. I created a world, and the world's going to exist because I coerced you to accept the Torah. Now that you did that, I happen to be very happy that you said Na'aseh v'nishma, and I'm going to give you crowns, and you're going to be honored, and everything's wonderful, but it doesn't really matter that you wanted it. I want to share with you another dimension of being Koivei Itim LaTorah. Somebody once shared this with me from Rav Asher Weiss, and it comes from the Peleyoyetz. There's a Gemara in Ksubas, Daf Tes Vav. It says like this: if you find a piece of meat on the street, and it came from one of the stores. You have 9 kosher stores, 1 tree.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.